little bit more on thesis statements. That's also called the claim. And thesis statements are important because they define what your paper is going to be talking about, the main idea, and the position. And thesis statements also kind of have the roadmap for the rest of your paper that kind of list what each main topic of your body paragraphs are going to be. And so like in this example, humans should move to Mars because with proper planning they can avoid issues of famine, war, and global warming. And so your position is stated, humans should move to Mars. And the roadmap for the rest of your essay is going to be the first paragraph is going to talk about how it avoids famine, war, and global warming. And so when your reader reads this, they know what your position is and what the rest of your essay is going to be talking about. And so they can follow along and know what to expect. All right, so what some things not to do in thesis statements. And as Ms. Murphy has said, you should not put I or I think or I'm going to explain because that turns your argument into an opinion rather than a fact. And so when you say I think uniforms are stupid, like, okay, you're entitled to your opinion and there's not really an argument. But if you say uniforms are stupid, then that sets up as like a fact that you're going to argue and that you think that that is true. And you should also avoid saying the word essay because your teacher already knows that it's an essay, so you don't have to specify it. And that's just a way to kind of elevate your paper. Okay, so let's practice thesis statements together. And so I have 4 different examples of a thesis statement for the question, should children be allowed to play violent video games? Can I have someone read the first one for me? Yes, Jacob.
I think children should not be allowed to play violent video games.
Okay.
That's opinion.
Right, that's opinion. It says I think, right? So I don't think that's the best option. What about, will someone read the second one for me? Yes.
Violent video games are bad for many reasons.
Okay, so what do we think about that one?
Opinion. Still. No.
Fact.
It is a fact, right? And that's a good one. So let's go on to the third one. Let's see, because we're going to choose. Jacob, you want to read the third one for me?
Children should not play violent video games because it has graphic images, makes them think violence is okay, and increases aggressive behavior.
Okay, so what do we think about that thesis statement?
That's a fact.
Right, so it doesn't say I think, right? It just says children should not play violent video games.
And it says why.
And it says why, right? It has the roadmap. Graphic images, makes them think violence is okay, and increases aggressive behavior. And so the last one says in this essay, and so we know, and then I will talk about. And so those are the 2 do nots for thesis statements. So we know that the third one is the best choice because it has your position and the 3 topics that your paper is going to talk about. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about conclusions. And so conclusions are kind of the reverse of introduction paragraphs. And so rather than starting broad, the conclusions start very specific. And that's when you restate your thesis so that your reader can remember what you were talking about and what your position was in the paper. And you can use signal phrases like in conclusion, finally, and then it gets broader when you go to the call to action or mic drop, which is what I kind of like to call it. When you leave the reader like a final comment or a final idea, that kind of leaves them something to think about and